AI is everywhere these days. Most of it we take for granted. It's in our thermostats. It helps us schedule our travel. It protects us from cyber threats. Some of it's malicious and designed to manipulate us and spread disinformation. Some of it pollutes our social media streams, diluting the actually interesting human or pet interest stories. And some of it helps us create, research, and make business decisions. AI will be instrumental in the automation of most of today's operations, and it will dramatically improve our productivity. Perhaps the most intriguing emerging application of AI is the personal agent. And I'm not talking about a co-pilot or an omnipresent question and answer agent. Yes, it is those things, but much more. These Identic agents, a term coined by Don Tapscott and Joseph Bradley in their new book, U to the Power of Two, Redefining Human Potential in the Age of Identic AI, will have agency to advocate, act, and transact on our behalf. They will live with us, know us, understand our values, and be our constant companions. The emergence of this technology has us pondering its potential and its pitfalls. In this very special episode of W3B Talks, I am joined by two of the world's leading thought leaders on technology and its impact on business and society, Don Tapscott and Peter Diamandis. Don is the author of 19 books, including Paradigm Shift, The Naked Corporation, Wikinomics, Blockchain Revolution, and the aforementioned U to the Power of Two. He's also the executive chair of BRI. Peter is the founder and executive chairman of the XPRIZE Foundation and co-founder and executive chairman of Singularity University. He's a best-selling author, has started over 25 companies, and he's the host of Moonshots with Peter Diamandis podcast. I am personally an habitual listener of Moonshots, and I highly recommend it to anyone who enjoys learning and being challenged by new ideas. Gentlemen, thank you very much, and welcome to W3B Talks.
A pleasure, Douglas. Good to see you.
Thanks so much, Douglas.
And Don, congratulations, buddy. 19. You just launched. Is U to the Power of Two your 19th book, really?
I think so. I sort of stopped counting with detail.
Oh, God, that's incredible. I've worked on like 5 or 6. I cannot imagine 19. But I think probably the most important one that you've done.
Well, we'll see. It's actually my first major book since Blockchain Revolution, which was a decade ago. I wrote with my son, Alex, and that book did great. 20-something languages, 500,000 copies, and my TED Talk based on that book got watched by 100 billion, like 15 million people or something like that. Anyway, enough about me. What do you think about me? No, just kidding.
Well, first of all, I have to say it's been a pleasure to have a friendship with you now for a couple of decades.
Yeah.
And thank you for your leadership and your thought leadership. And thank you for interviewing me in your book. It was a fun conversation. Yeah.
Well, and you ended up saying some things that ended up being kind of important to the book, like central. And you made your way into chapter 1, which I think one other person did.
Score.
Money. So thanks so much. And you're on a roll too. I mean, not just XPRIZE. I think didn't I speak at the opening?
You've spoken a couple different times. Yeah, no, yeah. I'm very clear. This is the most exciting time ever to be alive. The only day more exciting than today is tomorrow. And it's like, if you're an entrepreneur, now is the time to be full in. I'm having debates and discussions with my friends whose kids are in college or graduate school. It's like, I'm not sure I would waste time learning in the old institutions. I would be out there building something now, and we're going to get into it. But Identic AI, which is a phrase you coined that I absolutely love in your book, is going to be the exponential empowerment of every person.
Yeah. Well, I've coined some terms, so have you, but I think exponential technologies is certainly one that people identify with you. And the book is not called You to your digital twin, because it's not a twin. If it has an IQ 500, the twin is really kind of the wrong language.
Really important point.
Yeah. And so thank you for that. And let's just back up here for 1 second, and I want to get into Peterbot. But for those who are new to this particular show, the background here is only a few years ago, we were all captivated by generative AI. These systems could write and summarize and create with amazing fluency. But that was followed or based on that was Identic AI that extended those capabilities by giving a AI initiative the ability to act, to manage tasks, to pursue goals, without prompting. But we've got agents throughout our economy in supply chains, call centers, financial systems, manufacturing. But our view is that the most important agents are going to be these personal agents, intelligent companions that learn who we are, reflect our values, and really begin to operate as extensions of ourselves. And so, I don't make up new words glibly. You have to come up with a neologism.
You absolutely do. You make up new words all the time.
Neologisms, as I've learned they're called.
Anyway, so we called it Identic AI. Now, in our interview, just a whole bunch of things. You talked about Peterbot. Yeah. And so why don't we just get into that? You formulation that
I basically took everything I've ever written, all my books, all of my blogs, the transcripts of my Moonshots podcast, and I uploaded them into a large language model and then used that to power the brain, if you would, of Peterbot, which was built on HeyGen, which is probably, right now the easiest to use and probably most, dominant agent builder. And at the end of the day, I built Peterbot for a couple of reasons. One, I run a large community, the Abundance Summit. I've got 600 CEOs I mentor throughout the year. And I wanted to make it available to them whenever they have questions. And I did something fun, which I did sort of a podcast with myself. And what I found, which was incredible, was that Peterbot was much more eloquent than I was, able to go through a set of chain of reasoning on an argument much better than I could. And I found myself jealous at the end of Peterbot's abilities. It was extraordinary. And this is, of course, 2023 technology.
Wow. That's wild. I'm anticipating this because I'm building the same thing in the new year. I'll have me on the stage and Don Bot. And I'm kind of worried that he might correct me on some things or disagree with me. Yeah. But he'd probably be right. Actually, Don, you didn't say that in the digital economy. He said this or something like that. But it's humbling.
It is. I did something else which was fun, which was I created a version of Peterbot that was 150 years old. That basically looked at all the predictions written about how we're entering and going past the singularity. And then I had conversations with myself, 80 years from now, and say, or 85, 86, whatever it was, and saying, so what was it like? How did you reach longevity escape velocity? And what's society like? And what's the price of Bitcoin? And all those things. And it had a clear vision of the future. And so it answered, concretely. And it was just incredibly powerful experience. But let's get to Identic AI 1 second, Don, if I could.
Sure, go for it.
So one of the things we talked about that I want the listeners to understand is, I talk about abundance. I wrote a book called Abundance, The Future is Better Than You Think. My next book will come out in April when your sales have peaked and are just going. I'll
Thanks
pick up
for the good timing on that.
Yes, of course. It's called We Are as Gods, a survival guide for the age of abundance. But, there's abundance is everywhere. But the one area that people question is time. And no matter who you are on the planet, if you're Bill Gates, Elon, Sam Altman, or the poorest child in a favela in Brazil, all of us have one thing in common: 24 hours in a day, 365 in a year, right? And it's how you use your time that matters. And your idea of Identic AI means that I can multiply myself, a thousandfold, a millionfold, maybe a billionfold. Yeah.
Yeah, and that is such a profound idea. I remember you said that you could have an infinite number of vice presidents. Actually, here from the book, you say Identic AI imagines personal agents with memory, initiative, and alignment of our values. You could effectively have a team of exponential thinkers. This is a staggering idea that you could have someone attending a bunch of conferences. I think you said that.
Yeah.
That you couldn't get to, and you got people out in the supply chain solving problems, and people dealing with customers, and so on.
My fantasy here is, if I'm clear and I talk about the importance of having a massive transformative purpose, right? What is your purpose in life as an individual, as a CEO of a company, or as the company or a family office? If you've got a North Star that is important for you, that North Star, that massive transformative purpose, helps you decide what you focus on, and more importantly, what you don't focus on, because we're having more and more opportunities. So imagine if you created some multitude of identical versions of yourself that understand your mission and your purpose, and it goes to every conference out there, and it finds relationships or opportunities that align with your mission and purpose, and it brings them back to you. That would be awesome.
Well, I was chancellor of a university for a while, and ended up giving a lot of speeches, especially to students and graduating students. And I said, my hope is that you'll go from here and not seek just prosperity, but that you'll try and live a consequential life.
Yes.
That you'll make a difference. Wow, that's a cool thought. Wonder if you have an infinite number of agents that are working to achieve that goal of having a purposeful life and having a life that matters.
Yes, exactly. I mean, yeah. And by the way, so many have to choose between, do I spend time with my kids, or do I work on my business, or do I go back and take and learn? And imagine if you can maximize the human element of spending time with your kids, while your Identic AI maximizes the business side of the equation.
Yeah. So it's a purposeful life. It's also a life that's where your time is organized to do what you want to do, as opposed to all the other stuff that we do constantly throughout the day. Can I pick up on this God thing? Because
Sure.
you really got me going on this. And we ended up writing, ended up writing a whole section of a book called What If God Were One of Us, based on the song. And let me read you a little. Actually, I won't bother. But in that section, we talk about how you compared identical agents, and that they could be like a god, and you reflected back in history that people from the ancient past would view us as having godlike.
Yeah, our ancestors would view us as gods today, right? We're omniscient, we're omnipotent, we're omnipresent. We can be anywhere. We can know anything. We can take action around the world. I mean, those are traditional godlike powers.
Yeah. And what I ended up writing was, if I can remember it, is to be a god is not just to wield power. Gods transcend the limits of human life, of perception, understanding, memory, time, mortality, and gods act with foresight and this sort of a total awareness and command of reality that's indistinguishable from magic. Gods remember, they fear nothing, least of all death, and so on. And I had a really interesting reaction this week. I gave a presentation. I put my two West Highland Terriers up on the screen. And I talked about how when we go for a walk, I take them into the elevator in our building, and they're great dogs, but their level of comprehension is limited. They go into this little room and it rattles a bit, and then they go out of the room. It's sort of like the magic room, and they get to have a walk. And it's sort of like just contemplating what's it like to live in a world where humans aren't the apex intelligence.
Yes.
And, how do we...
We're going to find out. We're going to find out.
Yeah, I guess,
Well,
yeah.
So that's one dimension of this change that's upon us. And I think the idea that we have this extension of our personality with this massive IQ and this extraordinary access to information and connections and people, and the responsibility of them being able to transact and have agency and the ownership of that and the responsibility for that. Lots of interesting questions in that. But Peter, the comment you made earlier about us only all having 24 hours is absolutely true fundamentally. But technology has allowed some portions of the population to be able to use that 24 hours more productively, whether it's just basic illumination so that we can work and learn and study and do cultural things for a longer period of time during the day, or it's that we have access to information via digital networks, et cetera.
Or we have a private plane that we can buy back 1 hour going through an airport. Right?
Exactly. So in this world where we're talking about yet another one of those kinds of things, but this one has this 500 IQ and can be in 10,000 conferences or 1,000 conferences and doing all of this stuff, it seems to me that there's going to be a bit of a new world order, and perhaps this is so fundamental that we need to really think about the social contract. Yeah. So how do you guys see us rethinking the structure of society in light of what's about to happen to us?
Don, you want to go first?
Me?
I'm happy. I'm happy to go. I mean,
I've been working on this for a decade, but I'm really interested in what you have to say.
Right. So, yeah, we need a new social contract. Absolutely. Period. Full stop. I think one of the most important things that people need to realize is that this is the most important technology on the planet. It's the most powerful. I mean, what distinguishes us from every life form on Earth is our intelligence. We're not the fastest, we're not the biggest, we're not the strongest, but we theoretically sometimes are the most intelligent. So this is intelligence as a service. This is intelligence, added to everything. Now, what I find compelling and hopeful is that this technology, that if you would describe today's level of generative AI technology, arguably, I think we're at AGI, whatever you define it as, I would have never expected it to be effectively free, right? It's a leveling of the playing field. Now, if AI, AGI, and the large hyperscaler models were costing $100,000 a month, then we'd have a big problem. But anyone with a cell phone now, or at least a feature phone, a smartphone of some type, has access to the world's most powerful technologies. It's been demonetizing at a massive rate. And that's extraordinary. So the child on a $40 Reliance mobile phone in India on a 5G network, who lives on a few dollars a day, but has that connection, has access to all the knowledge I have. Right? I mean, Google was one of the greatest leveling of the playing fields. Right? The son and daughter. I mean, the children of Larry and Sergey and the poorest child on earth had, Google was the same for them. It was democratized and demonetized, and intelligence is undergoing the same thing. So this is one of the things that gives me the greatest hope. But people have to want to use it and change the social belief of what one can do.
Now, let me just explore that for a sec. The business model for Google, the advertising and advertising, what kind of business model do you see for identic agents? Because you sure don't want an advertiser working with Meta placing products or ideas in your extended intelligence, right?
So I think our Identic AIs are going to be buying everything for us. I think the idea that you're going to go to Amazon to buy something, or you're going to go to the store to get something, I think your Identic AI is, a really important point here. You're giving approval to your multitude of AIs to listen to every conversation you have, read every email you have. We're going to be wearing some version of glasses with forward-looking cameras, see everything you're doing. And you're going to give permission to all of this, because the more it knows about you, the more powerful it becomes. It becomes automagical. Everything's happening automatically and magically. So you don't need to reorder the toilet paper. It knows you're low on toilet paper and it reorders it immediately. And it doesn't care what the brand is. It's looking at, what's the best price performance, and you're buying toothpaste. Your Identic AI is not looking at the bright smiles of somebody. It's analyzing your genetics and knowing what flavors you like, and it's ordering what is the best, chemically impactful toothpaste for you.
But isn't the fundamental question that's extraordinary, but in much the same way that Facebook kind of owns our social experience and the way that we interact with the rest of the world via a social channel, shouldn't we be tremendously concerned about a private company owning that kind of power and that kind of insight into what drives us at the most intimate levels?
Well, that assumes that you're using one of the hyperscalers today versus you're using an AI model resident on your laptop that only you have access to, that you've built up a capability that is not sharing data with the rest of the world. And a lot of the models coming out of China, for example, are built to be open source and resident on your machine. My favorite science fiction version of an avatar or an Identic agent. Do you remember what it was, Don? Not if I shared it with you. It's Jarvis from Iron Man.
Yeah.
So, and I love Jarvis. If you watch Iron Man again and you see how Jarvis is interacting with Iron Man, right? It's helping him with his math and his physics and his coffee making and his whatever it needs. So it's able to stretch super widely, but it's only accessible to him. And it protects him and supports him. I think that's where we're going to go.
Well, this, of course, is the vision that we put forward in the book, that we need to decentralize the AI stack. It was actually through you that I met Emad Mustaf.
Yeah, Emad's great.
He's one of the real leaders on this movement. And I call it a movement intentionally because that's what it's going to take. It's a modest little proposition, but it doesn't mean that the big players get excluded completely, but we're going to see a more hybrid model here, whereby marketplaces emerge for all this stuff, and where your AI can assemble different tools, different capability, but a lot of it is going to run out on the edge, on the device.
Yeah,
and I don't think Mark Zuckerberg's going to like that idea, but
think about it. Mark has said, I will spend as much money as I need, right? He's committing tens of billions of dollars. I mean, the good news for him is he's got a revenue engine, unlike Sam Altman and OpenAI, that's got to raise the money that they're spending.
Yeah.
But Mark has been over the top on spending capital to buy buy talent and to build things out. So he knows that Meta's current models have a limited shelf life.
Yeah. So our time is limited here today. We could continue this all day. But just on the enterprise for a second, because I know that's part of where you do a lot of thinking and spend a lot of time.
Yeah.
There's some pretty profound issues that get raised here for companies. You know, what's it like to have an infinite number of vice presidents?
Yeah, sure.
When you're hiring someone, what are you looking at?
Yeah.
Their resume? Or maybe you want to look at their agent. Could somebody right out of school or something could be more capable than someone, a seasoned executive? And one thing I wanted to pick up on, although please comment on any of this, is what happens when you leave the company? Like right now, Microsoft says with Copilot, of course, which is not really an
Great question.
but it's a precursor. Well,
Yep.
all that belongs to the company.
Yep.
Really? Do you have any thoughts on how to parse out what's the legitimate sort of proprietary information owned by a company and what's all the thinking and the tacit knowledge and all the other stuff?
I think those are really challenging questions that need to be figured out. So as an example, if I'm the VP of operations and I create an operating manual for the company and I quit, the company still owns the operating manual, right? So the question becomes, what part of the resident Identic AI that, because what's going to happen is when you have a great employee, you're going to want to like replicate them. So, you know, I as a, you know, God, I've hired thousands of people over my lives from my different companies. And there's a difference between an amazing employee and a good employee. Yeah. And I have some amazing employees and I wish I could have 20 of them, right? I would replicate them into every new company I start. So, you know, is that going to be, you know, if I want to start a new company and Esther, who's my chief of staff, who's one of those amazing individuals, if I could like replicate her and bring her into the new company, do I have the right to do that? Or does she negotiate an ownership or salary in the new company? This is part of the social contract conversations that are going to be figured out over the next, it's not 5 years, it's the next like 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Just a sort of a final question here.
Yeah.
And you're into longevity and you know, good health, and you've got a whole program on that. It's super interesting. It was 1990 when I was at a dinner party and we were all coming up with crazy ideas for new businesses. What's your favorite part of the muffin? The top, the lid. Why don't we create muffin lids?
Yes.
But I was well served, and I came up with this idea called perpetual presence, that the information artifact that's remained unchanged the most is a gravestone. So why couldn't we create a digital communicating kind of gravestone where the loved one would continue on? You feed them the Wall Street Journal and other stuff so that they're fully up to date and can continue a conversation and so on. It was a big joke. Not so much now. And I wonder if a killer app for all of this is life after death.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I think it is. And one of the things for everyone listening, I tell this to people, it's if you still have your grandparents or if you're older and you have your parents still, take the time to grab your phone and put it on video, put it on record, and record a 2 or 3 hour video of them telling their life story, every detail, because you're going to wish you had that in a few years. Why? Maybe it's not for you, but it's for your kids, your grandkids, your lineage, to be able to go back and know this person. Yeah. So I did that with my mom. I was not able to do that with my dad, unfortunately, but it's an important idea. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, I did it with both my parents, and I agree
You did.
completely.
Excellent. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, look at, I'll let Douglas wrap up here, but thank you so much for your help with the book.
My pleasure, Don, and I hope folks will dive in.
Yeah.
I find this concept. I mean, listen, this is a leveling of the playing field. I don't care if you're super wealthy or super poor or any place in between. Your ability. I mean, there will be an industry of you spinning up these Identic AIs that will help you expand your abilities in the world to multiply yourself. It's a very powerful idea that you investigate in full. So where do they go to find out about the book, Don?
Well, you can go to any bookstore or online, Amazon.com.
Okay.
Mentioned in Canada, weirdly, it's out of stock of all.
Sold. It's like sold out is the official term.
Yes, it is. Well, not weirdly, it's a great book.
Yeah.
Well,
Not surprisingly, it's sold out.
that's good news, but it's mainly bad news because right now people are trying to buy the book and they can't. But Amazon.com for sure. They've got inventory, or any bookstore will have copies. So we hope you'll. Volume, by the way, is the best way to purchase this book. I mean, I'm sure, Douglas, a lot of the listeners.
Christmas is coming up. What a great gift.
Well,
You say it
and for
well.
that matter, Peter, we'd absolutely love to have you back to talk about your new book in April.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
that would be
Appreciate
that'd be a lot of fun. We can redo this conversation and talk about the big ideas from your new book.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank
the God theme, of course, is a great one.
Thank you so much, Don and Peter, for joining us today for this episode of W3B Talks and sharing your insights and wisdom with us. And thank you all for joining us for this episode. You can find Moonshots with Peter Diamandis on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and most other major
YouTube.
podcast platforms. You can find Don's new book, as he was just saying, You to the Power of Two, is available on Amazon, Indigo, and at most of your local bookstores. Of course, you can also find out more information about AI and blockchain's future and their impact on business and society at blockchainresearchinstitute.org. And while you're there, please consider subscribing to our newsletter. I'm your host, Doug Heinzman. We hope that you enjoyed this episode and that you will join us for our next episode of W3B Talks. Thanks again, gentlemen.
you, Doug.